SPDR, spider suit, SPDR suit. I still don't know how to say it. Alrighty, welcome to The Living Card Gamer. We are taking a look at SPDR today. That's what I'm going to be calling her for the rest of the video. Not quite sure if that is correct, but we did play through 4 different games with her live, with each of one of the aspects. You can find those videos in the description below if you are curious or want to see those. But now this is going to be the recap video where we talk about her strengths. We're going to rank her in the 4 different aspects and then rank her in the overall Marvel Champions hero power ranking. So I like to think of SPDR as kind of the engine builder of Marvel Champions. She feels so very much like the type of board game where you are trying to put things onto the table so that you can carry out bigger and better turns down the road, and that's what she embodies so very well because she is built around these interface upgrades. The interface upgrades are there are 5 of them, and each one of them do something different or special, and they can also, while in hero form, be exhausted to generate the resource that's printed on that card. So in her deck, there are 5 total interface upgrades. One of them does start on the table, so once you are, flip immediately into hero form, you have at least 1 resource generator already on the table. However, you can get up to 5. So once she is fully built, you have all of those interfaces on the table. You can pretty much pay for anything. She has so much money, and that is kind of offset because she has a very low hand size. She has the smallest hand size we have seen in Marvel Champions. In Alter Ego form, she has a 4 hand size. She can draw with one of her Alter Ego abilities, 2 extra cards to go up to 6. And then in Hero form, she only has 3. You are going to be utilizing these cards to play, not necessarily thinking about these as resources. The interfaces on the table are going to be the resources, and these interfaces are so critical for her to be functioning properly. One of the main things that we are looking for when we are playing SPDR is, because we have the resources but not necessarily the cards to play, is trying to figure out how she can get card draw so that she can have more options, because the worst feeling in the world is drawing up to that 3 hand size and not having the card that you need to play in order to get you out of the situation that you're currently in. We need to figure out ways to increase that hand size or figure out creative solutions to get cards that are not in her hand onto the table. So when we are going through some of the aspect cards, we'll be talking about what cards in each aspect do that so very well. But first, before we dive into that, let's talk about some of her basic cards, or some of the gray cards that really work well in her kit. So she has 14 health, so she can run a lot of these new cards that are meant to kind of power up some of the tanky characters, like Limitless Stamina, so that gets her the ready, and Unshakable, which gives her steady. So these are really solid cards to throw in her deck, just because she does have some really strong basic power uses, and so not being able to utilize that, whether being exhausted through defending or a encounter card or being stunned, can be very detrimental to a turn, especially in solo play. And so you want to be running these cards to help mitigate that risk. She is also a web warrior, and so running the Web Warrior kit is going to be pretty strong with her decks. So Web of Life and Destiny is an example of a card that's going to be excellent with her. It provides her the card draw, so whenever a spider or a Web Warrior leaves play, you get to draw a card with Web of Life and Destiny, and drawing a card in hero form is an increase of 33% of her hand size. And so this card win in every single one of the decks that I have built so far with her, and then I do run a gambit of Web Warrior allies to play off of this Web of Life and Destiny, which triggers the card draw, as well as trying to figure out creative solutions to get out of just playing cards from your hand. Across the Spider-Verse is another really solid include, because she can play from her discard pile. She can play Web Warriors from her discard pile, and that really helps balance out that hand size. And then it's a 2-cost card, and then you can pay 3 and then trigger that ability again. And so you can get multiple allies out on the table with just 1 card, and that opens up her discard pile to be able to be played from. And so therefore you're not limited to that 3 hand size. Going along that theme, Lockjaw is another card that I found really solid in a lot of her builds. So it's a 4-cost ally that can be played from her discard pile. And so she is not cash limited, she is card limited, and so being able to have that option to pull Lockjaw out of your discard pile at any point can really mitigate a bad card draw. One last thing that I want to talk about, and one of the mistakes that I actually made on stream when I was building a deck, is that she cannot run Warrior of the Great Web, which I think is a miss. I really wish that she could run Warrior of the Great Web. She does not have Spider, S-P-I-D-E-R, spelled out in her title, and so therefore she cannot run this card. But I really wish that they had made the change that this could be run with maybe like Web Warrior traded heroes as well, because this would make her just so much fun to play. Now that we've kind of talked about some of the basic cards and the cards that I look to put in her deck from any of the aspects, let's go through and rank each one of the aspects. So these are going to be in order of power level for solo play. This does change a little bit if you are running multiplayer. And then once we get to my favorite aspect, I will make sure to highlight that so that you know, or that I can kind of like talk about that and be excited about that with you. In fourth place, she has aggression. So aggression is in fourth place because she wants card draw, and aggression doesn't have a lot of access to consistent card draw. It does have Bring It. It's not always going to be able to be triggered because there's not always going to be minions on the table. So that kind of puts this kind of lower in the tier ranking. There's not a lot of building in aggression, and by building I mean putting cards onto the table so that you can thin out your deck, and she really does like to thin her deck to draw some of her like really cool, really strong events like All Systems Go and Web Shot and a couple of these other that are just really solid events, and she wants to be hitting those very consistently, especially with her small hand size. The one saving grace for aggression is that she does not have a great way to deal with minions in her base kit, and so when running aggression, I typically try and build around that fact and manage the minions on the table, and then let her kit deal with the villain and the threat, because she does a fairly good job of doing that once she is fully built. So in third place, this is actually, I think, pretty fun, because this is the biggest discrepancy that I have seen in my rankings and in the community rankings, which you can see about here. I post those, so if you want to participate in those, go ahead and follow on YouTube, and I will be posting these throughout, and you can go ahead and vote and get your voice heard. But protection was ranked as the best aspect for SPDR, and I actually have it in third place. And the reason being is that because she loves card draw so much, she does not have a great way of so she has a very consistent way to card draw in protection with Unflappable, and so that does increase her hand size from 3 to 4 almost every turn. So she has Speed Metal Alloy on the table that bumps her up to a 4 defense on a single defend, and if you have an armored vest, you're at 5, so you're probably not going to be taking a ton of damage if you are running protection, which you will be able to trigger the Unflappable very consistently. However, the coming aspects have a much more burst card draw, which is kind of what she is looking for. She wants a lot of cards in her hand, and protection does not do that super well. However, she can take care of a lot of protection's kind of issues, and that being, being exhausted going into the hero phase, because she has an interface upgrade called Host Spider, which allows her to ready, and so she can still activate her basic powers in the hero phase, which is something that is protection really does look for. She also has access to like Spider Tingle, Flip, and all of the green Web Warriors, which makes protection a really strong run for her, but I do think that the other two are a little bit stronger. One last thing that I will say about protection, and this is kind of key in a solo game, if you're running a long scenario, so if you're running Kang, or you're running any of these scenarios like Thanos that have huge amounts of health, then protection's actually probably going to be a little bit higher on the list, because protection has so many upgrades and supports that you can put onto the table and thin her deck down so that you can hit those consistent kit events so much more frequently. Kind of keep that in mind. This is a weird one because it is very scenario specific and dependent on where this falls, but overall I think protection is in third place. Which brings us to second place, which is Justice. So Justice, the yellow aspect, has a excellent card draw engine with one way or another. So you go find a side scheme, draw 3 cards, and then if you have a skilled investigator on the table, once you defeat that side scheme, which is going to be pretty easy with her upgrades and everything that she has going for her, you get to draw an extra card. So right there, you're already looking at doubling your hand size, which can just lead to some absurd combos with SPDR. If you combo this with like a chance encounter, which allows you to go grab all of the web warriors, and because we're in Justice, we have access to the neutral and the yellow web warriors, so our web warrior kit has expanded significantly, then you can go grab those and put them into your hand, and just all of a sudden you're being able to tutor what you need and be able to find and handle the table very well. When we're talking about Justice, I usually like to mention the fact that Justice allows you to flip down, which surprisingly I did not find myself doing as much as I thought I would want to. But it does help you do that if you need to. You can flip down, draw up to like your 6 hand size. It's going to be 4 plus your 2 card draw. So you do have that option, but once you get those interfaces on the table, I did not find myself needing to flip down to get that hand size or recover. She just is so good at handling all of the threat, not necessarily like the threat on the main scheme, but all the issues being thrown at you from the game, that rolling down to Alter Ego did not happen as frequently as I initially thought it was going to. But Justice is such a strong aspect for SPDR, and I do really enjoy running it. However, the strongest and my favorite aspect to run with SPDR is leadership. And so this is kind of fun for me because a year ago when I started this channel, I crapped on leadership. I did not like leadership, but we have seen so much growth in the blue aspect so that we have so many more archetypes and so many more ways to play leadership. I really enjoy leadership with SPDR. So the reason being is leadership can be pretty expensive with some of the allies that you have. She really doesn't suffer, and she has the money to be able to put those high cost allies onto the table, and then you can utilize them to manage the board state while she is building. And so this is kind of a really fun shift, right? You can utilize your allies to take care of the threat, take care of minions, and let SPDR build. And once she is built, Strength in Numbers is your friend here. So Strength in Numbers is a card, it's a 0-cost card that allows you to exhaust any allies and draw a card equal to the number of allies exhausted. So once you have 3 or 4 allies, if you're running Triskelion, then you can really just double or double or, increase your hand size to having 5, 6, 7 cards in your hand, and that opens up so many options. And leadership being probably the most flexible of the 4 aspects, SPDR can handle anything that you need to do on the table. Her allies can help with that, and then Strength in Numbers is going to allow you to draw into those all system goes and all of the other great cards. Also, you have the opportunity to run these gray web warrior allies with command team, and you can, get them in, get them out, triggering Web of Life and Destiny, triggering their entering and or leaving play abilities. So leadership is just set up to flourish with all of these excellent web warrior allies that we have, and it is just a ton of fun. If you have not run a leadership SPDR deck, please do so. Do yourself a favor. It's incredible. I did try and run a sneak attack version of leadership, which I still don't think sneak attack is a good way to run leadership. I think there are builds out there that are strong and enjoyable. However, a Strength in Numbers build is definitely going to be the strongest version of a leadership build for SPDR. So those are the 4 aspects. Let's go ahead and take a look and rank her in all of the heroes that we have done so far, and let's talk about it. So she is really strong once she is built. However, one of the downsides to SPDR is in the early game, if you're not drawing those all systems go, or you're not drawing the interface upgrades that you need, it can really be a struggle, and she can really stagnate. And that can really be an issue. That actually happened in one of my games, and I cannot remember what that is right now. Sorry, you're gonna have to go watch all of them. I think it was Aggression, but sorry. But I did stagnate. I was not able to draw and get interfaces onto the table until like turn 2 or 3, and that really was a slow roll. And she is so powerful that in standard, which is what I was playing at the time, she did not struggle with that all of that much. And so in standard, she's a solid hero. However, if you are running an expert, she is going to really struggle if you don't draw those correct cards. And being so dependent on those cards can be a hindrance. Therefore, kind of thinking about, you know, where she falls in the ranking, we're going to give her a B tier, just left of Black Widow. And so she's a really solid hero. She's not an S tier hero, but she's really good, and she is excellent in standard play. Expert heroic is kind of where she starts to feel that pressure and can kind of start to stagnate. One thing that I will note is our current tier list that you see on the screen right now is being updated. So before our next hero spotlight video, I will be releasing a video where we are going to re-rank all of these heroes. So make sure to look out for that. Go ahead and follow the channel so that you can be notified when we do get to see that, because a couple of these opinions have changed. So I'm looking forward to that. We are taking votes for who we're going to be playing next. You can find that link down below in the video description, so you can vote on who we want to be playing and reviewing next. And until then, enjoy SPDR, enjoy Spider, however you say your name. Thank you for watching and have a fantastic day.